All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a spiritual framework that, well, it might just flip everything you think you know about morality completely upside down. Most of us grow up with this basic idea, right? Do good things and you're a good person. Simple. But what if that's not true at all? What if, on a cosmic scale, the universe doesn't actually care one bit about what you do? So the source material we're digging into today puts forward this really radical idea. It says your moral standing, even your ultimate destiny, isn't determined by the choices you make. Nope. It's all based on what you are, something baked into your very being, something innate and, well, unchangeable. Okay, so let's get into this first big idea. It's basically asking us to step beyond our usual ideas of what good and bad even mean. And this is where it gets wild. Seriously. According to this teaching, if you have what it calls a divine nature, you could do something that looks, well, pretty bad to everyone else, and it would still be recorded as a holy act. It's not about the action you see, it's about where the action is coming from. And of course, it works the other way too. Someone with a so-called demonic nature could be out there saving lives, doing all the things we'd call good, and guess what? In this framework, they're still recorded as evil acts. This just blows up everything we think we know about karma, right? So what exactly are these two natures? All right, let's break down what this framework means by these two core types of being it talks about. So the key term here is batal. The easiest way to think about it is like your spiritual DNA. It's not your personality that can shift and change. No, this is something deeper. It's this fundamental inborn disposition that you've apparently carried over from a past life. It's the absolute core of who you are. So this batal is split into two types. On one hand, you have the divine nature, or Jerichon batal. This is all about being fearless, having a clear mind, and really knowing that you're the master of your own world. And on the other hand, you've got the demonic nature, Guishon batal. This one is defined by things like hypocrisy, ignorance, and that constant feeling of being a victim, a slave to whatever's happening around you.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. What is the real difference, the actual dividing line between these two natures?
The whole thing boils down to this incredibly direct question. It argues that this isn't about being good or bad like we normally think of it. It's all about where you place your sense of control. Is it inside of you or outside? So here's the breakdown. The master, the one with the divine nature, they know their own mind is the source of everything they experience. They act with intention. But the slave, with the demonic nature, they believe the outside world is what's causing everything. They're just reacting all the time, blaming this or that, always feeling like a victim. And here's the real kicker. If you're listening to this and thinking, hang on, that sounds totally unfair. Well, according to this framework, that very reaction, that feeling of blaming an external rule for how you feel, that right there is a sign of the slave mentality itself. Okay, this is where we get to what is probably the most controversial and maybe the most difficult part of this whole idea. So naturally, the big question is, can you change it? If you're looking at this and thinking, I kind of identify with that slave mentality, can you just, work really hard and become a master? Can you change your batal in this life? The answer this teaching gives is, well, it's about as blunt as it gets. A definitive, absolute no. And there's no wiggle room here. The source is totally uncompromising on this point. It says your batal is locked in for this lifetime. It even claims that changing it in one life has, well, it's never happened. Ever. Just think about what that means. It's staggering, really. It's basically saying your spiritual path in this life is already set. If you have a demonic nature, true liberation isn't on the table for you right now. But there is a little sliver of hope. By putting in a ton of effort, you might be able to earn the chance to come back with a divine nature in a future life. But wait, there's a crucial piece of context here that kind of reframes how harsh that sounds. The source also claims that people with a demonic nature, they aren't actually interested in liberation anyway. It's just not on their radar. So hearing that they can't achieve it isn't bad news to them. It's just irrelevant. Okay, so that brings up a pretty big paradox, doesn't it? If your path is set, If you can't change your nature, then what's the point? Why bother with any of this? What are you even supposed to be doing?
And the teaching has a very specific answer for that. The goal isn't to change your nature. It's to examine it. The whole point of this life, the real work, is just to consciously look at and become aware of whatever nature you already have.
So this process is called jiomgom, or self-examination. All it is honestly looking at your own thoughts and tendencies and figuring out which nature do these line up with. And here's the really cool part. The source says the very act of doing this, of consciously reflecting on yourself, that's the work. And not only that, it's the ultimate hallmark of the divine nature.
This last quote just nails the difference, doesn't it? Those with the demonic nature, the slaves, they get judged by someone or something else after they die. But those with the divine nature, the masters, they judge themselves while they're still alive. Right here, right now.
So in the end, that's what we're left with. This whole radical framework really just boils down to one single question you have to ask yourself. So forget about good versus evil for a second. The only thing that matters is this. Are you the master of your mind? What's your answer?